All right. I think let's start. It's 11:30 already, and thank you everyone for joining us. Uh, I know it's in the morning, and we just getting ready to work. So that's why we thought, okay, what's the best way to start it off while discussing about privacy and data security? So today we are hosting a panel discussion, and the topic which we are going to discuss about is how to build a secure organization, keeping data privacy in mind, right? Uh, Let me introduce myself. I'm the moderator. I'm Subho Halder, CISO and co-founder at Appknox. I have more than a decade of experience in security and security research, specifically on mobile, in the mobile ecosystem. And I have been giving talks and training people in different conferences such as Black Hat, Ciscan, and other places. And I've been building tools for automating securities and stuff. And what I've realized that security and privacy goes hand in hand, and hence that's what we will be discussing more on. Let me introduce you to our panelists. Uh, I have with me Raghunath. So Raghunath is the associate CTO at VXC Technologies. Raghunath, why don't you go ahead and talk about introduce yourself, a bit.
Hi, thanks, Subho. Thanks for arranging such a platform on and representing the Data Privacy Day, which was on 28th. And I'm Raghunath Thiyagarajan. I am Associate CTO for VXC Technologies. We are a product company, and ideally I come up with some 20 years plus experience where I started much earlier in career in terms of the IT infrastructure administration and security. Today, security has taken a different branch altogether, but not as a branch. It has become a big tree actually, which we specifically have to concentrate and start growing it to support the entire industry. And I come up with, I worked in a few places where I was handling and building the entire security postures for organizations. And to run it, I am ISO 27000 certified, EC Council, CISO certified. So pretty much into security risk and compliance portfolio. Thanks, Subho.
Thanks, Raghunath, for the wonderful introduction. I also have Vijayta Sharma, and she's the associate director at Fabricare. Vijayta, do you mind, introducing yourself a little bit?
Thank you so much, Subhu, and thank you for organizing this panel discussion. Hi everyone. I have been working in legal field from past 11 years. In last 6 years, I have helped a lot of startups to set up their legal and CS team. So majorly my role is to take care of everything legal in the startup, starting with contract management, the drafting policies, taking care of security, facilitating ISO audits, internal and external, and helping all the organizations to build up their secure system and ensure that they are complying by all the laws that's applicable to them. So as of now, I'm working with the Fable Care. It's a health tech startup. There I'm heading their legal and their CS team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vijayta, for the wonderful introduction. I also have with me Rajkumar. Rajkumar, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, Shubham. Hi, everyone. So myself, Rajkumar P. I have around 16 plus years of experience in IT. So I started my career as a Java developer with the Polaris. So I have worked in with the multiple organizations like Polaris, Bank of New York, Mellon, PayPal, and currently I'm working with the Comviva as a technical director. So basically, my experience was with developing a financial and banking related products in a Java J2E platform. So I have been in all the SDLC process from the front end, middleware, and database, and infrastructure as well. So we know that data security is the highest, important thing, which I have been working for a few projects involved. And thank you for the, opportunity to discuss in this forum, Subho.
Thank you so much, Rajkumar. It was a wonderful introduction. I would like to thank all the panelists for taking out your time and coming for this discussion about data privacy. So we'll just go forward and we'll just discuss the agenda. So just so that we can have a kind of a little bit structured discussion. So what we'll be discussing is, how to implement effective data governance policies in your organization. Also, we'll be discussing a little bit about how to build a culture of security and privacy within your organization. And how do you navigate the ever-changing landscape of privacy regulations? I mean, it's always keeps changing. And obviously, the best practices for the incident response and recovery. We have a wonderful panel of varied experiences from different fields. We have someone from legal, we have someone from tech, there's someone who is a veteran CISO. So I think we can ask all of this question and get a more idea on how we can have or secure our digital footprint and respect the privacy laws. So yeah, so why did we start this? As Raghunath said, we wanted to do this panel discussion because January 28th is considered as the Data Privacy Day. It's an international event which occurs every year. And the purpose of the Data Privacy Day is to raise awareness and promote privacy and data protection best practices. So at Appknox, we take data privacy at the most important level because since we are a security company, we need to be doubly sure and we need to make sure that our data is much more protected because we are dealing with very sensitive information of different clients, right? So we wanted to raise this awareness with everyone, share this awareness with everyone, and hence we came up with this panel discussion. And then the question arises why data privacy is important, right? There are a few pointers like compliance, reputation and trust, risk mitigation, innovation, competitive advantage, and employee retention. Few of these pointers you won't understand why, right? Compliance, I'm guessing everyone understands, right? Because many organizations are required to comply with data privacy laws in different regions. If you're operating out of Europe, you need GDPR laws, you need to follow those compliances along you go. Apologies. Reputation and trust, obviously, if you have a really good data privacy policy and if you make sure that all of this are in checks, then obviously you can do business with a lot of reputation and it can bring trust to your customers, right? And obviously risk mitigation. Now, we cannot be 100% foolproof, fully secured company, right? And there will be issues which will arise. So what happens then? How do you mitigate those risks? How do you make sure that you handle those incidents in a proper manner, right? And obviously innovation, how do you innovate your organization to make sure that the data privacy remains at the core of your organization, right? And obviously competitive advantages, and the competitive advantage is very important thing, and that's the reason I put it over here is because organization that prioritizes data privacy and security may be able to differentiate themselves from other competitors. You can actually go ahead and say that, we take data privacy more seriously. We have these laws, we are compliant to these, these many compliances and regulations, and that's why I have a little bit of competitive edge from my other competitors, right? And obviously employee retention, because a company which respects data privacy not only respects data privacy of its own, but also its own employees, right? So, and that kind of, it's a plus point for all your employee retention strategy, right? I'll just quickly go on to some of the common mistakes organizations do while securing data. Not encrypting sensitive data, right? Do you know what is sensitive data, right? And you need to classify, and then you need to figure out what needs to be encrypted. Lack of incident response plan, because there might be incidents which are going to happen. How do you respond to those incidents? right? Not updating softwares. I mean, it's a very basic point, you would know, but how many times do you update your apps in your device? Go to Google Play Store and update it, unless the app itself says, please update me, right? Uh, Failure to include all the stakeholders in security planning. It's not the only responsibility of the CISO or the legal team to only draft the data privacy plan. It needs to be responsibility of the overall organization to work on it, right? And obviously, inefficient training to employees on best security practices, uh, and obviously no regular test or monitoring of security controls are which kind of prevents or helps you to mitigate data breaches, which keeps happening, right? These are some of the common mistakes which we have figured out, which we have found while discussing with different other organizations, right? Uh, so a quick pitch about what is Appnox if you're joining for the first time. So Appnox is basically plug and play mobile app security solution. We provide 360-degree mobile security solution to businesses to secure their mobile applications and to make sure that no security issues or vulnerabilities goes out in the public domain or in the app store. So and how do we do it? Just a quick slide to show it. You just need to upload your binary. We do not need a source code at all. And then we perform various level of check, few automated vulnerability assessment like SAST, which is static application security testing, DAST, where we run the application in a real device and simulate hacking attempt to figure out what are the different ways where the data is getting leaked. And obviously, we also capture all the API the app connects to and also perform a test on top of the API. And obviously, we also have penetration testing and remediation, where we actually assign a security researcher who would take apart your app and figure out issues and also get on a call with you to explain the issues and how you can fix them, right? So, and these are a few of the businesses with whom we are working with. Ideally, if you have an app, ideally, if you have a smartphone, which I'm guessing everyone has it, at least 5 of the applications in your smartphone has gone through Appnox, and that's something which I can say proudly, right? So let's try to start a panel discussion. So I have a couple of questions which I want to ask our panelists, and then we can get their insights on what do they think about, right? So just give me 1 minute. Let me just pull up questions. In the meantime, if anybody who is attending from Zoom, if you have any questions, please go ahead and use the Q&A button which is there, and ask away your question. We can take it up during the panel discussion. If you're watching this panel discussion from any of the social media channels, please go ahead and put it as a comment, and we will obviously go through all of those questions and kind of get back to you immediately, right? So, all right, so let's start off. So I have this, so let's start it with a very general question, right? Why don't you go ahead and say your 3 challenges faced in securing the data in your industry, and how all your customers' data is adequately protected, and what kind of regulations you are facing, right? So I want to start off with Raghunath, if you can, go ahead and share your thoughts on this. Share your thoughts on 3 top challenges, basically. I'm sorry, Raghunath, I think you are muted.
Sorry, I am speaking. Wait. See, the 3 top challenges for me is, okay, definitely the data protection, okay, and which ideally starts from the data classification, and probably like we should be very careful in terms of classifying the data, and most of the time we miss out the data, or we don't understand what is our sensitive data. So that has to be very clear along with the customer and also with the internal management's agreement. And yeah, there are a lot of frameworks which we can follow, standards and guidelines. But end of the day, as a CISO, every CISO who heads and runs, or a security responsible person, the exact problem is procedures and the practices which is happening in the company. You can define a policy, you can have the appropriate internal audits, but every time is it been done or not, the CISO or the security person cannot go and check. So there should be a tracker, or there are enough amount of tracking tools, or people like Appknox or other tools where you ideally involve them to do the appropriate scanning for you and ensure those procedures are followed. There are two things. One is procedures we follow for the sake of compliance, or when the customer asks. But I see if there is an incident, then there is a humongous pressure which you will go through. It's not the incident should happen. Even if you see an attack, a potential attack is there, and still it is denied, there is a pressure. So to do this, the right guy who is sitting in the last line of as a warrior to support, he ensures that he opens the port, he is closing the port or not. Sitting at the level of CISO, I cannot able to do that unless I have an appropriate monitoring services or a tool or a procedure, and ensure that is being appropriately managed. The very important thing is this, and behind that, there is always the customer, where we have to, the third one is like, if it is a complaint on the customer, we need to provide appropriate evidences. You cannot go and run back 2 months before creating evidences or to giving some kind of malfunctions. That doesn't work at all. And because the security is more mature these days. And so ensure that day in and day out, you practice and the procedures have been followed properly. Then this is ideally like all these things, like now what they think is like, okay, security is to protect data, which is ideally right. But end of the day, from business point of view, it is a reputation of the business, which exactly hits more for you in terms of your financial benefits as well. That's what I see, Subho.
Thank you so much, Raghunath. I kind of agree with you on the 3 pointers, right? So, okay, let's just go ahead and ask, Vijayta. Vijayta, what do you think about, if you can share your thoughts about the 3 challenges you face in securing data?
Yeah, I second Mr. Raghunathan, but at the same time, I would want to bring our focus on practical things like remote work. Remote work has given a lot of challenges in securing organization data, because there is a limit to which you can secure your data, especially when you are giving all the assets to a employee, where there are limits to how you can govern how they would be using the assets. So I guess remote working has been a major challenge, especially start of COVID, and now that people are saying go work from home because of various issues. So I guess that is one of the major issues that all of us face. And then I feel key employee training. We create SOPs, we do create SOPs, we implement things, but then again, as Mr. Raghunathan saying, how do we implement it within the team? So we have people coming in, especially in startups, like every day. And if you are during onboarding, if you don't train them, if you don't tell them what to do when, that becomes a challenge, because the person is working on and person is using your secure data. But the problem is they are using the personal data of a customer, of employees themselves, of the company as well, but they don't know how to handle it. So we have to, as a startup, we have to understand that we have to train each and every employee, especially the ones who work with this kind of a data, that how do you use it? How do you ensure that you are protecting and securing that data? Because it's not just your obligations. Moreover, it's company's obligation. It's our obligation to maintain that and secure that data. So I guess these are a couple of things which I feel are plays major role in securing our data and are becoming challenging in these days.
Yeah, Vijayta, I can totally relate. I think it became the data privacy part became more important after the COVID scene started, right? And
Yeah.
that became a really good momentum also.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Vijayta, for sharing your views. What about Rajkumar? Rajkumar, what do you think about three top challenges you are facing, or you have seen, or you think
Yeah,
is
apart
there in
from
the
Yeah,
industry?
apart from data classification and compliance as a developer, since I faced a few challenges, as a developer and a reviewer in a Java digital platform and development side. So generally, developers when they do logging the request and response, it might be looking at low level detail, but it's very important in terms of data security. So companies has to implement analyzing the logs and what are the data is logged in the logs. So it has to be captured and it has to be either masked or encrypted for the external usage. And even recently, Jan 19th, I think you might have heard that there is an attack in PayPal it's called a credential stuffing attack. So it is because happening same password when the people are using for multiple sites. So for the hackers, it will be very easy to hack the weaker site and to get the password, and they will use it for the other sites. So it is again a people's responsibility to have a different password for different sites. It's their responsibility as well. And the one more challenges in a network level data hacking. So that is one kind of challenge we are facing. And with the TLS, the transport layer securities, we can at least we can control it. So in terms of our company and the customer data, yes, how we are handling. So we are decrypting end to end our data, and with the proper password policy within our organization and with the proper firewalls in our infrastructure, we are taking care of securing our customer data as well as our organizational data. So in terms of regulations, yes, we are following all kind of information security regulations and the cyber security laws and regulations. And yes, we have partners like CISA and Appknox to do the vulnerability checks every quarter, and we are ensuring that our data is protected. That's all
Thank
from
you
my
so
side.
much. Thanks, Rajkumar. And I completely agree about setting up your username and password. It needs to be different from each and every services which you use. Although people started using things called password managers, and recently in November last year itself, there was a data breach which happened on a password manager itself. It
Right.
was called LastPass, and all their private vaults were breached. So at the end, I think also educating the users is also one of the very important aspect. So yeah, thank you so much, Rajkumar, for sharing your insights on this, right? So I have a very specific question to Raghunath, right? Why don't you tell us the best effective way to protect data loss and implement data recovery in any organization? Data loss, okay, we just heard a few of those things, but also how to implement data recovery in any of these organizations who are looking to, have data privacy in place.
Correct. So see, data privacy in places. Okay, the first thing, like we don't want to disclose any of the information, the confidential information what we have classified. And so now that same information, there are two parts in it. Where somebody takes it, then he should not able to use it. And in case if I lose it, how do is it possible to recover? If there is a crash, then I recover. If something is stolen through ransomware or something, then there is no recovery. Okay. So ideally, so taking that as a point, the first implementation should be data loss prevention. There are good amount of tools. And even before that, there are two ways of seeing it. There is an internal threat and an external threat. So external threat, that is like you are ideally looking for someone, or you are trying to protect somebody from outside. You put enough amount of your firewalls, tools, and your web application firewalls. So you're trying to protect. If he steals your data or crashes your mission, the first thing is either you mirror it across the region or you have a backup and you recover it. If not, and if you store it, I very much recommend you should do an encryption methodology. Even if it is stolen, then he may not able to use the confidential data. And for ransomware, this is the only solution. You have an appropriate encryption and with the right backup for your confidential data, because you may not, most of the time, you cannot recover it. And those people is not going to say any of your identification of them to transfer your money. That is on the data recovery. And DLP is very, very essential for your endpoint security. What Ms. Vijayta said, like working on an remote, and our this generation kids are pretty much happy working in remote beach resort or a vacation. So in those areas, it probably like DLPs across any endpoint is very, very essential to protect your data, and also at some point of time to recover it even from the endpoint. There are tools, even in case unknowingly, if someone has been hacked and or the laptop has been stolen, lost during the travel, you would able to erase the data as well. So these are few points are pretty crucial at this point of time. And I don't know how the next generation is going to come in, and that will be more difficult for people younger to us now to go and manage them.
I completely agree. Even for the backups, right? Offsite backup was a thing which used to happen when we had data centers, right? And offsite backup was very much a thing. Now it's more of, we say, cloud backup. We kind of back it up in the cloud, and that is considered as more of an offsite.
More of an offsite backup. So that's the, so DLPs will ensure you to protect and to recover. Ideally, the cloud backups are good. And even when you put it on the cloud, please encrypt it and just keep it on your cloud. So that's where I recommend.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Raghunath,
I
for
have
sharing your
something to
insight.
add on that.
Yes, Vijayta. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I guess these days when design team design the software or we design our app, we concentrate on as much as data we can collect, which I guess should be monitored. It should be the minimum collection of data, and there should be a transparency with the customer that, okay, we are collecting this data and why we are collecting. Generally, that's the main crux of privacy policy. And instead of collecting everything which we can collect from the user, because user is the main point now, because user is what we are collecting and the data is what is selling these days. So I believe as many users are there in your app, that shows that, yeah, your app is doing wonderful, no matter how its finance and operations and everything is going. So I guess that should be monitored somehow, that every company should collect minimum data which is required to use your app. I guess that should be somehow monitored by government or regulations. There should be something, or maybe there should be a clause coming up in our, we have a bill already, digital personal data protection bill. So I guess there should be a clause where we can monitor all the startups and all the companies to collect minimum data. I guess that would also help in companies to protect the customer data.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of agree. And but then there comes a thin line of user experience versus
You
collection
also
of
know,
data.
and I also know those are the things that we use
Yeah.
as an excuse. So I guess we should actually ensure that we are protecting the data, collect minimum as less as you want to provide the services. And I guess it would also give you scope to ensure that, okay, even if something goes wrong, you have measures to recover only that amount of data. So you have to keep your problem solved, and then your solution would also be easier. If you keep your problem open and it's unlimited, then your solution any which way would be hard to identify.
I think in the start when you say that when the product teams are actually writing the product from ground up,
Basically,
yeah,
design team needs to ensure
design team, they need to do it from the ground up,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that can make it
Yes,
much better.
yes,
Absolutely, I kind of agree on that. Great. So Vijayta, I'll come back to you only. So why don't you go ahead and discuss the importance of data privacy in building a secure organization, right?
Yeah.
What's the importance of that?
Yeah, so majorly I feel it's about the trust issue. Basically, you are having an app to ensure that you have good ROI, you have good numbers of users. When and how will you have good numbers of users? Only if I am a user of your app, I will only trust you if I am sure that my data is protected. These days, everyone, even the child, is aware that there is something called data protection. We are so aware about it. The only problem is we don't have good regulations in India so far. ISO is what helping all of us to secure our data. And now there are apps which tells that these are the particular apps that you should delete because they are not protecting your data as they should, right? And these apps keep sending notification to different apps. Okay, this customer have asked you to delete your delete his or her account. So I guess there is a huge factor of trust building with the customer. So as far as you can tell them that your data is secured, you have good measures of protection, like you have certifications, you have, because we do not in India, we do not have regulations except IT Act, which is like talking in a very minimum requirements of data security. So have an ISO, have a certification, and tell them that, build a trust with them, have a relationship with them, and tell them, yeah, we have these safeguards and we are protecting, we are ensuring that your data, your privacy, everything is protected. So I guess that's the major thing which is which is important for all the organizations, especially startups, because big companies ensure that, because as we grow, we have to ensure that we have everything in place. So startups should also start thinking on that terms. And as soon as they have some base ready, maybe from 0 to 1, from 1 they should start that, yeah, now I need to build build the trust of my customers, and we have to get these certifications in place. So I guess which now good startups are heading towards, and which is which is actually good for us. So I guess, and I also believe that these agencies, when a startup chooses one agency, that this is the agency I'm choosing to have an ISO with, so I guess that choosing of agency should also be very appropriate. A good due diligence should be done before choosing the agency to give you a certification, because that is also very important.
I completely agree with you, Vijayta, on this. Actually, I think shifting the responsibility as early on as you can, right?
Yeah.
If you start from the startup, your cost benefit ratio goes way up because you have already started doing in your initial level. The price you are paying for the data privacy at that point of time is much more cheaper than if you have grown 100x and then you start building data privacy. It's a much more headache at that point of time. I completely agree on that.
And that comes in your day-to-day thing, and then people are trained, things are in place, SOPs are in place. You just need to train your employees. Everyone is aligned, and things go smooth.
Correct.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vijayta, for your perspective on this. Rajkumar, I'll come to you. I wanted to understand, how does your organization effectively implement data privacy policies and procedures? Like how?
Sure. I'm happy to answer that. So as Vijayta said, so during our designing our application, we will generally get a guidance from our compliance as well as from our architects to collect about the collection of data. So we are instructed to collect the data only which are required to have the application to run. So there is no there should not be any extra information collected from the clients unnecessarily. So that kind of guidelines we are actually following, and our organization is strict with that policy. And we have a data privacy policy, and we have a security officer to guide the team. And they will have we have a regular team which they will do a regular audit in a quarterly basis. And we are conducting a regular training and awareness programs. So not only for the developers level, it is for the whole organization level. Even you don't believe it, I mean, it's organization's responsibility to conduct the awareness and training programs, even including the security team and even the housekeeping team itself, because here there are two kind of data securities there. One is cyber security and another one is actually a data security. So cyber security, at least with the application and infrastructure, we can handle it, the data on the network. But it's come to a, if anything written on a paper, if it got lost, then it's again it's also a data loss. Okay, so to protect that, it's every person in the organization is responsible to take care of it. So again, as I said, it's a we are following a people plus system approach. So through trainings and awarenesses, we are making the people to protect the data, and through in system level, we are ensuring our our developers to follow the coding practices while masking or encrypting the data when sending from one system to another system. And we have automatic checks implemented even during the, and we call it as a pull request, while after doing any change, we'll raise a pull request. So even that level, we need to have we have implemented automated check. Is there any personal identifiable data is logged for any external access? And we have security scanning softwares which will run occasionally, and it will find if any data is logged, it will find and it will send an email notification. So with this kind of system plus people approach, we are able to take care of the data privacy policies and procedures effectively.
I completely agree with you, Rajkumar. I think the best way to go forward is people plus automation, right? And it needs to have that human touch as well as the automation at a scale, right? When you start small, you can have that people process itself. But when you keep scaling up, when your team keeps growing, it is impossible for just a people approach to take care of it. But you need to put in automation, but also you still need that touch of people over there. So yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to know how you are handling, all of these compliances and policies, at your organization. Thank you, Rajkumar, for sharing your thoughts on that. Raghunath, let's come back to you. So let's discuss about one common example of data breach, and if you can take that as an example, and if you can tell me how companies could prevent it with better data privacy measures.
Right. So we'll talk about privacy. I will when we talk data privacy, you keep it as a corporate and you see like, okay, I'm going to save some data and everything. Let's take a little bit personal. Somebody calls you by a name in a strange place, or he tells you about the CTC, what you are earning, or he tells about like where you are traveling, then ideally you get pissed off. Okay, you're not comfortable. Okay, that's the privacy. That feel should be there even when you work in a corporate, that you are you are definitely responsible for the data. And how to protect the data? There are two things. If few CISOs or infrastructure heads, if they are in the current session, I recommend, like even I, including me, we don't ideally still position a designation called data custodian. So I recommend we should bring in a data custodian designation in every organization, even at the application level. Today, during the budget or whatever issue, we may not able to bring it, but at least it could be a dual designation. If someone heads the application team or a development team or a product team, you can assign him as a data custodian, which is very important. And so that he manages his team below him, where he is giving a raw code access. So he is responsible for the entire data, where the infrastructure team implements appropriate tools and the CISO implements appropriate policies and procedures, so that this can be attained. That data custodian is responsible for his area of data, what he is collecting, accessing, or delivering, or is transiting on the cyber network. And the whistleblower policy has to be strictly implemented even for data theft internally. We only see that has been more spoken on the financial factors. So I see that the whistleblower policy also should be implemented in the data theft and misuse of data. So that's what it is.
Yeah, I, I, I mean, these are some of the pointers which was not even there in my mind, but yeah, it kinds of makes sense. Uh, yeah, thank you so much, Raghunath, for sharing those pointers.
Okay.
Uh,
And I think this one more thing I would like to answer for Trika, who has texted me. Trika, for employees, I only tell them, employees who is accessing the data, please, you guys don't know that has been monitored and it has been tracked. Whoever touches any electronic data, it always leaves a footprint somewhere. So you are tracked, and whatever, be responsible of what data is given to you and not to misuse. And if you're asking for, especially on an employee, how to handle data or employee's data, then ensure, if you are an employee who is joining the company, ensure what is given to your HR or whoever it is. Like, you can still, any form you sign or anything, mention it for what reason you are giving it. Maybe it is not, they may not use it, but wherever it goes across in different hands, and probably it may be misused. So that's where, like, if I answer you properly. Thank you.
Thanks, Raghunath. Just for everyone, the question was, what are the different steps employees can take to help in safeguarding the data? So, yeah, thank you so much, Raghunath, for sharing your views on that. Yeah, awesome. So, Rajkumar, I'll come back to you. So, how can organization implement data encryption and other security measures to protect sensitive information?
Yeah,
What do you
it's a
think?
good question. Yeah. So basically, we need to organize the data first, and and classify the data, like P1, P2, P3, P4 kind of classification has to be there, and it is mandatory to enable the data encryption end to end. It's not in the one area, but the end to end data encryption should be implemented, and also we need to perform a data production, impact assessment. At least every year it has to be done. And generally how we follow, right, we generally follow hackathon kind of challenges. We challenge our internal employees, internal developers to hack the system. So it is actually an opportunity to find out the any breach or any loophole in the system within the company. So it just sometimes it helps to identify the loophole inside, and we will fix it immediately. So these kind of programs will help in to have it's an extra effort the company can put it to identify and fix it before any outside world attack. So this is a few things which we are following.
Very interesting thing, actually. Yeah, but it does require the company to invest a little bit more, right? Because now that if you're handling this regular exercises on data encryption and others, then probably the employee needs that extra time to work on that, or like how do you do that? Or do you carve out time from their own sprint and tell them it's okay, it's a part of their job and part of their job?
It depends. Sometimes in a December month we may not have much work in some organization, right? So at that 1 month we will utilize for this kind of innovative programs. So apart from that, in other organizations, even my friends heard that every 2 hours, in a 3 months, in a quarter, they spend 2 hours every day, and they will spend extra time to do these kind of activities. It really helps in the organization to find and fix it, for the developers, for them to to increase their skills in terms of the data security, and what are the attacks, what are the kind of loopholes can be in the systems to identify. So it increases their knowledge also in the system.
Got it. Thanks, Rajkumar, for sharing your insights on that. I'll go back to Vijayta. Vijayta, how can organization ensure compliance with data privacy regulations such as GDPR, TCPA? And these are all, yeah, if you can explain more on that. Yeah. I'm sorry, Vijayta, I think you're muted.
Yeah. So I guess to ensure compliance, first thing is accountability. who's accountable for your compliance, who takes care of your compliance. So it's very essential to appoint a person, to appoint a data protection officer in your company who ensures that compliance is met. And when you talk about GDPR, CCPA, these are all foreign land regulations. We do not have a regulation that is as stringent as GDPR or CCPA. So we have a bill, but it's still not implemented. So what is equivalent or what is acceptable global wise when it comes to India? It's ISO 27001. So I really suggest that we have a DPO who ensures the compliance, who takes the accountability for the company that, okay, I'm ensuring the compliance of data privacy for this particular organization. And we ensure that we at least get into the process of getting certified by ISO 27001. What happens if you get certification of ISO 27001 is initially you will assess all your system. You will assess where do you stand. Then you will identify that where are the gaps. Where are the gaps in our system, which you can again fix through the right methods, right? So there would be implementation of appropriate technical and organizations measures through when you get in a process of getting ISO certified, right? So these then also at the same time, if you get in that process, the training would happen for all your employees, the training would happen for all your vendors, onboarding of vendor would be synchronized for your company, SOPs would be created, right? So it will also ensure that you have a plan in case there is any breach, you have a plan. So all these, if all of this will come in, and if all of this will join hand, then it will and the company will ensure that on day-to-day basis they are ensuring, and they are actually ensuring that they are complying with the data privacy. So these are two crux that if the company uses, they will ensure that there would be a compliance with all the regulations related to data privacy.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Okay, thank you so much, Vijayta, for sharing your opinions on that. What I'll do is now I have a couple of questions which is incoming, I think from various social media as well as from this Zoom meeting itself. So probably I'll just go ahead and ask this question to the to all of you and probably get some insights. And yeah, so the first question which I'll take up is by Rajesh. So he was asking, what measures should startup take for data privacy? And mind you, it's a startup, so a small company, right? What do you guys think for a startup to take for data privacy? What measures? Yeah.
So first,
Anybody want to
design team should focus on what data you want to obtain. You have obtained certain data, then how do you protect that data? So have the SOPs ready and train the employees, because those are the minute things which play major role in a startup. And as soon as if your employees know what to do, when to do, and how to do it, that would safeguard most of the things within the startup. And then gradually, if you have fundings, if you have enough things, then go for ISO, have a DPO in your company, have a data protection officers for people who don't know what is DPO. So that's a person who is appointed as a data protection officer. It could be your legal team, it could be your technical head, it could be anyone who have good understanding of what data privacy and security means to the company.
And
thank you so much.
I add to this is like, as a startup, as Vijayta said, you may not have an ISO, maybe you'll go a little later. So you can include few legal clauses in the contract, what you are signing with the your customer or client. So that suffice to cover you in terms of using, accessing, or purging the data.
Yeah, and sign NDA, sign an NDA without fail, sign a good NDA without negotiation, have a solid NDA framed for your organization, and ensure wherever and with whomever you are sharing your personal data, your employee data, your customer data, company's data, ensure that they are signing your NDA. And if it's your customer data, I would say that along with the other agreements, go for a DPA. DPA is data protection agreement. So it ensures that how the other company, the vendor, how they use your or the data that you are sharing with them, your customer data, your employee data. So sign couple of things like an NDA, like a DPA, and then that will ensure that, yeah, your data and your customer data is protected by a third party that you are working with.
So in terms of, I think I want Vijayta covered in a compliance standpoint, but in a design standpoint, they should ensure what are the data has to be collected, and the encryption from the end to end, it has to be there. And especially while storing the data in the database, they need to follow the process. If any data can be stored, that has to be validated against the compliance team. Then after the approval, it can be done. Otherwise, all the data has to be encrypted. Not should be in a readable format. So those are the few key points they have to, it's basic to look into that in a design perspective.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your views on this, right? Especially, it's very important for a small company and startup to care for data privacy, and how to start off it's a very important thing. Okay, I have another question. I can take just 2 more questions. I'm so sorry, but what I'll be doing is I'll collate all the questions. I'll send it to all the panelists, and we can take those questions offline and send out an emailer to everyone who has joined. I'll take 2 more questions, right? The other one is, this is asked by Ebuka. He was asking, what is the best way to handle ransomware?
I'll take up this.
Please go ahead.
All right. See, it's not that I am talking to you in terms of what I read through, browsed through, or what the industry recommends. I myself encountered a couple of situations in terms of ransomware that people just came, took up one of our customer server, okay, in US, and he is asking for cryptocurrencies. That's where it will all start. One day you cannot log in and nothing happens. And they will send you like, okay, you send me some Bitcoins, that kind of things. So that's where, and you cannot transfer and you cannot trust them. They will decrypt your server and give it back to you. Okay. And there is one more instance happened where we did some vulnerability assessment in Chennai in a star hotel. I don't want to mention it. Okay. So ideally, like suddenly they got a call. They called me at 11 o'clock in the night and they said, okay, there is an ransomware attack. And there are first thing there are 2 things I'll put it. The immediate action, what you should do, and what remediation proactively that you should be carrying out. The first is you have to disconnect that appropriate server and move it out of the network. Okay. And you might, I don't want you to even put another OS, just reformat it couple of times, and then you can bring up the server or leave it for some time, and then you can start using it. That could be the first thing that you should be doing it. And the second one is, despite you have appropriate firewalls and everything, there should be an proper monitoring of your traffics, and also a VAPT has to be done periodically. This will ensure where are your gaps in terms of your applications and also on your network. And despite when it happens, then what you need to do, there is no way to get this back. Always have your BCP plan, business continuity plan, in place. There are 2 things they called BCP DR. DR is disaster recovery. There is something as disaster happened, you are recovering it. But before that, there is BCP. How do you run your business? So business continuity plan is very essential. Your recovery time is, I don't know if it is 1 hour or 2 days or 3 days. How do you run it? So here your BCP plan has to be pretty strong and ensure that you have appropriate backups. As Subho mentioned, like there could be cloud backups, which we can do. Either you keep it active or active passive. And ransomware please encrypt all your sensitive data. And they cannot be used, they cannot sell it in dark web, and they cannot do anything. So I just, and if you are following GDPR, ISO 27, especially on GDPR, ISO 27001, it's not going to penalize you. If it is a star hotel, then you have to comply to follow GDPR. If you have a data from an European Union, then you can be penalized. So it's little critical. So please encrypt your sensitive data, which is very crucial. So that's for a ransom question.
I would like to add on that. So Raghunathan was talking about the global companies majorly. What happens to the startups which are India based, which are in early stages? So we have ourselves in my previous organizations at several places, I have faced this issue, and negotiation plays a very major role when it comes to small hacks, or when it comes to, because there are students now who are amazing at doing these things. They are doing it for paying their fee, they are doing it for various reasons. So how do you negotiate with them? First, you do as all technical measures, take all technical measures as suggested by Mr. Raghunathan. But then how do you protect the data that they already have? Do negotiations, see if you can come in terms with them that they would not be sharing or they would not be disposing your data furthermore. Decrease the size of exposure. Disclosure should be decreased. How would you do that? Negotiate with them. If you can pay them the amount they are asking, negotiate the payment and sign the NDA with them, that whatever data they have, how they have breached, how they have managed to get that data, get those techniques from them, try to fix, try to get them on board. Tell them you will be our intern, get them on board. You will get data from them. You will get the hacks that they have used on your platform. So negotiation plays a very major role. Get it protected through NDA, pay them, convert them into a white hat hacker. Recognize them that they have helped you in accessing one of the vulnerability in your system. So those things would also help you in minimizing the disclosure of your data and to have control back to the data that has been out of your hand. So I guess that could be helpful for a few of the organizations. But it is again limited to small ransomwares, not the huge ones.
Great. Somewhere I feel that you had experienced it, because few of the things I could relate to.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think I'll just take one last question. This one is from the social media. We have a couple of questions on LinkedIn and Facebook coming in, but I'll just take this one last question. This is a very interesting question. When responding to incidents, how to preserve evidence for the investigation?
So incidents like, can you give an example?
Let's say ransomware, data breach,
so technical
internal.
evidence, I guess Mr. Raghunathan would be able to answer, but again, rest of it would depend on how do you negotiate with them, how much information you can abstract from them. So, and you have to ensure that before you go and talk to them, you have set of questions ready, and you have set of people ready who can ask technical questions, legal questions. You have to prepare before you go talk to them. So, and you have to record all of it, record the meetings, record the timings, record what they say, take their permission before recording major thing. Before you record any meeting, anything, take their permission. That's a confidential data. So once you want that confidential data to be in your access, you have to take permission. So other than that, I guess technical front, Mr. Raghunathan can answer.
Right. See, when you respond to an incident, see, the incident has occurred. Now you start responding to the customer, or to you are also negotiating along to the person who is the attacker, or you may or may not. or to the internal management. So that's where we see as an incident response, how you start reacting. And the first thing first is like, be transparent, number one. What is happening if you as a customer tell them like there is an attack? And most of the time that when the end of the day, there is an business which is happening. Anything is hidden, not transparent, not disclosed, it's going to affect the entire business. So be transparent, tell your customer, okay, this is what has happened and what you're doing is right. That is one thing. Second, perseverance of your evidences. So whatever your evidences like has happened during the attack or an incident, then you should ensure what is being good to disclose, or if you have the management approval to disclose, and what type of data that particular evidences has got. Is it some kind of financial information, or the information of the customer, or the customer's information which is been already stolen? So these things, like, you ensure whether this has to be disclosed or not, and that has to be masked, and it has to be it has to be given to appropriate. Even if you're giving it to the media, in terms like you go and accept, like, okay, there is an attack, then this has to go to a complete legal process here. So that is very essential. And again, end of the day, there is a business which is happening behind this, so that should not be impacted.
Thanks, Raghunath. Actually, we are running a little bit out of time. So probably Rajkumar, if you want to share your thoughts a little bit in like 30 seconds or so, and then I have one last question to ask every one of you. So, and then, Rajkumar, do you have anything to add to this?
Right now, and I have no points on this particular thing. Subho.
Okay, great. So now this is going to be a rapid fire kind of a round. So if you can just answer it in like 30 seconds, that'll be great. So the question is very simple. How can organization regularly assess and improve their data privacy and security measures? Right? What do you think are the one point which you think organizations should do, or how can they do the regular assessment and improve their data privacy and security measures?
Proper training and the consequences of data leakage. So it could be either intentional or by mistake, but either way it's not acceptable. So we should clearly explain to everyone in the organization to make them understand. And every 6 months we should have a certification kind of training. So they should get certified. So by doing this, we can achieve it.
I guess periodic evaluation of an employee. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
And sometimes, like, okay, please do not encourage and accept even a small mistake in terms of security. That gives a discipline to maintain it.
Penalize.
Perfect.
If required.
I know.
I didn't say
thank
that.
you so much.
I'll leave it to the lawyer, okay? The legal things.
Yeah, this is the benefit of having everyone from different domains coming and sitting and discussing. So I think that this was a great discussion actually which we had, and I think we didn't realize that the time went by and we kept discussing about things, and it's a very learning experience for me also. I learned a lot from all of you, and I'm guessing it's a learning experience for everyone else who have joined this panel discussion. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this discussion and taking out your time to come here and talk about data privacy. Thank you so much, Rajkumar. Thank you so much, Vijayta. Thank you so much, Raghunath, for your time and for a great discussion which we had. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thanks for the
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. We will send out an email to everyone whoever has registered. If you have not registered, if you're looking at this panel discussion from the social media handle, please click on the link, come register so that we can send out an email to you with the recording of this discussion along with all the questions that you have asked which we couldn't answer during the panel discussion. We'll probably share it with all of you and get the answers and perspective from yours, and then we can share it with everyone else. Thank you so much for attending this panel discussion. All right, bye. Take care. Have a nice day, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.